So today I'm going to be talking about some grammar things in Montessori. Hello, I'm Miss Bethany. I'm a lower elementary Montessori teacher, and today I'm going to talk about grammar because we're going to have a book discussion actually on Tuesday, the last Tuesday in February, which when I'm recording this is tomorrow, and I'll upload this tonight. And there were some very interesting things in the reading of Montessori and her grammar, and I filmed a video, so there'll be clips here and there from that video, but I wanted to show you what I meant by the grammar boxes because they're different than the symbols. And I feel like if you're Montessori you would know this, but I didn't do a very good job explaining it in the video previous. As you can see, they're kind of dusty because we don't use these very often. I'll use the cards to make different sentences, but as you can see how I was explaining, because in Italian and other Romance languages, the adjective comes after the noun. So one, it's not even set up correctly for English, but also these colors are very different than the colors on here. And I honestly couldn't find anything that explains why. And like I said, I only saw the, or like I will say, I tried to explain before, I only saw a comment saying, oh, well then it's not a color matching thing from this, but I don't believe that, because in her actual writing, these colors are never mentioned. The only thing that's the same is the verb and the noun. Everything else is a different color, and they're the same colors, but in different things. Like I believe, what is that? Like the preposition is purple, and things just change. The adverb is pink, and it's just different. So I don't like using those, but I'll show you some things I do instead. Well, I have a few different works. This is A versus An layout. We have, well, these are just cards for this, but I also have another adjective work that's matching logically matched adjectives, and then preposition work. So there's just a bunch of different things. I like doing the punch outs of the shapes with symbolizing, and then of course my symbolizing cards, which I'm just about to make more. And if you've already bought these, then I'm going to send you like the hub to get all the other ones, and they're going to be more advanced cards. So and kind of in the different seasons, there's going to be autumn, winter, and spring seasons of cards. So then like your third years that come in can start with those, and the first and second years can go through these, or even the second years might be able to go through most of those. So I have a little book discussion, even though you can come to it even if you don't read the books, but I found it's very interesting to go back and read the books after teaching for multiple years. But we're just reading the advanced Montessori method 2 for like elementary. And we're looking at the grammar section, which is a lot of different, it's a long section, but it has a lot of examples. And here's why. Because so if you're watching this, you're probably a Montessori teacher, and as you know, the Montessori was originally originated in Italy, and the original works were in Italian, and Italian has a lot of different grammar structure than in English. So I bring this up because I love grammar and the grammar symbols. I think it was just one of the ways that it's just a fun way to learn, with symbolizing over different things. I was in probably because I was a Montessori child and I loved grammar so much, then I went to go on and major in Spanish for my bachelor's degree. So it's very interesting, this topic. I love grammar. It's one of my favorite things to teach are the grammar symbols and just symbolizing in general, which is interesting because she talks more about the grammar boxes in this book. But I also find it interesting that she didn't talk too much about the symbols, but the colors and how they match to the boxes, because if you know, the grammar symbols are different than the grammar boxes. And if we're being honest, the grammar boxes are a very boring work. The symbolizing could get repetitive too. I just like it better. But it was interesting in here that she talked a lot about when you do the presentations, how it should be dramatized. Like, I'm pretty sure we all do the one with the adjective where we're like, go get me the pencil, and they bring you like a regular pencil, a colored pencil, all the different colored pencils, and you keep coming back and forth saying, no, that's not the one, and you over dramatize it, saying that's not the pencil I wanted, and the kids keep trying. And then you say, well, how do you know which one I want unless you have like a specific adjective in it? And it's just a fun way. It's just kind of a fun and different way to do a presentation. But what I didn't remember the first time I read this is that she has a lot of different fun and different presentations in this book. And I was, for all sorts of different presentations, whether that be any of the grammar symbols or word study, punctuation, sentence analysis. There's a lot of good presentations in the book, and what you should say to like make it dramatized and things like that. Though that's what really stood out to me in these chapters. And of course you have a lot of examples in Italian, like we were saying, you know, like we were saying, she has, or like I was saying, it was a lot of Italian examples. And as we know, the adjective comes after the noun in Italian, whereas the big thing in English is that we do the noun family. And also how she goes through the grammar symbols in this book is different than how I teach them. So she does the article, noun, adjective, verb, preposition, adverb, pronoun, conjunction, and then interjection. But what I do is I start with the noun and then we do the article. And there's a lot more agreement in Spanish. I mean in Italian. So there's different articles, whereas we just have a, an, and the, you know, and some people also consider those adjectives, which is interesting. So then after you learn the noun, the article, and then the adjective, then you do the noun family. So then you could see like the adjective, article, and noun. And then I do the verb, and then I do the preposition next, and then I do the pronoun, and then adverbs and conjunction and interjection. I think it's just because the, or I think I might do the pronoun before the preposition. Oh my goodness, why am I blanking on if I do one first? Because it's easier to have shorter sentence to replace the pronoun, but I think I do it after preposition. But I don't know. In my grammar cards, they're in an order, and it's one before the other. And that's thing. But the other thing is, I tried to research this and I couldn't find much of an answer. So, because the article and noun, I could find the specific ones. The article and the noun are light brown and dark brown in these ones, which we all know is not correct for our grammar symbols. And I'll go through the ones. So an article is tan, a noun is still black, the brown adjective, the red verb, violet preposition, pink adverb, green pronoun, and yellow conjunction, which we know so the article is light blue, the adjective is dark blue, and then the noun is black, the verb is still red, preposition's green, conjunction is pink, and then the pronoun is purple, and then the conjunction is pink, and then the adverb is orange. Sorry, I was reading this. Adverb orange and conjunction is pink, and then the interjection is gold. Well, I looked it up. I was like, well, what did it just change? Because clearly that's what the color is. So if you're in a different country and teach Montessori, and if you use those colors that are actually in this book, let me know, because I couldn't find any concrete evidence that it was Americanized to be different colors, or just it went along the way. But I also, when I looked it up, the only thing that remotely popped up was someone asking that why they were different colors. And someone said that multiple people actually responded to this person's question saying that, oh, well, my training said that it was because they just didn't want it to be a color matching thing. But that doesn't make sense with this, because those were the original colors she used with the grammar boxes. And also, if you notice on the grammar boxes, the adjective is after the noun. So that's very much, as you can tell, I don't really like using the grammar boxes in my classroom. But I know there's like new grammar boxes where they lay out more cards. But that's a lot of things in this. It's laying out cards, and a lot of things we do is like laying out cards even for the word study, like compound words or suffixes and prefixes, homophones, homographs, homonyms, all those things. They're just laying out cards. And I'm trying to get away from that and do different things with it. Once I have more concrete examples, I'll share with you different ways that we do those things. But then I'm like, are laying out the cards just a control of error type of thing? Or, no, well, it is. I'm not saying that. What I meant by that is, because you can control the error, but what I meant by that is that, are laying out the cards a way to isolate the new thing so they know how to do the work? It's just learning the new topic. Whereas if you did different things for different activities, it would be learning a whole new activity and learning a whole new topic. So is laying out the cards saying, well, they don't have to learn a whole new topic, but they're learning, not a whole new activity, but they're learning the topic, if that makes sense. What I did like on this too is a lot of these have like science experiments to learn the different parts of speech, which was so interesting. So I would encourage you to go back and learn from and look at this. Obviously, some of the examples are old, as I always say with all of the books in here. But yes, there is also some nice phrases in here. I really liked, because most of it is just examples, but I really liked different areas in this book. And I know in the last video I did, when we talked about reading, I read more examples from this, but there's just not so many examples to read from the book because it's just a lot of pages of Italian and English examples of things. But one thing I did pick up is that age 7 is a great age to, when they start to really like to look at words, which I thought was interesting that she said 7. And then even saying, she calls herself out, and she was like, everybody's thinking how preposterous it is to teach 4-year-olds to start all this learning and everything. And then she's like, but our methods work. She's like, look at this. And she even calls it out. It's really interesting. That is at the very beginning. It says, how absurd it would seem to suggest a study of phonology and morphology in a nursery with 4-year-old children as investigators, yet our children have accomplished this very thing. The analysis was the meaning of obtaining the word. And she also does a lot of things. Oh wait, that's another thing I remember from reading through this, is when she introduces like the commands and stuff, it's like calling out things. So if you and nouns. So if you call out a person's name, then they will respond. But if you call out to an object, they're not going to respond. But the person you called out could do a thing to the subject or to the object, like bring it here, so like, or pass me the grapes. So the grapes, or like Bethany, pass me the grapes. So the person, Bethany, is passing you the grapes. So the grapes aren't responding, but that's the thing you want the response of. So she talks about that. I'll just read this too because I thought it was interesting. It says, that is why the material must be such as to suggest each step in detail. The teacher should be relieved as much as possible from the labor of preparation and research, for the delicate work of intervention is a task hard enough in itself. In preparing this material, we have worked for her. We have acted as the workmen who produce the various objects necessary to life, but she has to live and make live. This will show still more clearly how far from the truth the modern conception of pedagogy, which attempts to to realize its desire for freedom in a school by saying to the teacher, try to respond to the needs of the pupil without being conscious of your authority over them. When we ask the teacher to respond to the needs of the inner life of man, we are asking her a great deal of her. She will never be able to accomplish it unless we have first done something for her by giving her all that is necessary to that end. So then she gives you different examples. So she's saying we have to think, how can we help the student without even being without remembering our authority over them, like see it from their point of view and different things like that. I wanted to get this video up to say this Tuesday we are going to be discussing grammar and different things. It's more going to be like how we all use grammar in our classroom, or if you want to mention anything from the book, that's great too. It's an interesting topic. I do love the symbols and the grammar and everything, but it's also it's a lot to remember, not only for teachers but also for students. And then I'll say this at the end. Maybe I'll put this at the beginning as well, but I didn't learn grammar until I learned a second language, and that was me being a Montessori child. I symbolized when I was little, but I didn't truly understand the grammar of my own language until I learned the grammar of Spanish, the second language that I know. So it all doesn't make sense. Like you just don't know until you look at all the different structures and everything. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Join the link below to talk about grammar, and also there's a free resource hub, my scope and sequence is down below, and a lot of other things. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.